Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet corner we have set aside for you, and thank you with a warmth that is both sincere and deep for choosing to spend a portion of your evening with us. It is our truest hope that this gentle story we have prepared will be a soft and steady guide, a comforting hand at your back, leading you softly toward the peaceful shores of slumber. If this tale brings you a measure of calm, we would be so grateful if you might, before you drift away like this story, subscribe to our channel and perhaps leave a kind word for others to find. It is a simple act that helps us to continue crafting these quiet harbors for all. Before our journey begins in earnest to a place of profound quiet where glowing spores drift like silent wishes, we shall first take a moment to breathe together to settle body and mind. Let us now find our own small measure of comfort, much as a weary traveler might find a perfect alcove cushioned with soft, ancient moss. Feel the gentle, supportive weight of your bed beneath you, a steadfast and certain presence in the quiet of your room. Allow your body to sink into its surface, releasing its hold, letting every part of you feel utterly and completely held. Arrange your blankets, drawing them close not for mere warmth, but for the feeling of a secure and gentle embrace, and let your pillow become a soft cradle for your head. This time is a gift you give to yourself, a quiet pilgrimage away from the busyness of the world, where all the thoughts of the day can be gently unspooled and allowed to drift away into the stillness, as soft and silent as the ancient air in the Athenaeum of Repose. Let us now share a breath, a slow and easy thing, like the contented sigh of the Athenaeum itself, as it settles into its ageless quiet. Draw the air in softly through your nose, a slow and natural current, imagining it as a clean, cool stream washing through you, clearing away any lingering dust of the day, and then release it with a soft, nearly silent sigh through your mouth, an offering of peace to the quiet air around you. With each unhurried breath, feel your body growing heavier, more settled, letting go of the small tensions you may not have even noticed you were holding. Imagine the clean scent of cool stone, the delicate fragrance of chamomile and honey, and the earthy aroma of ancient moss filling your senses, hushing the small noises of your mind and your surroundings. If your thoughts, as they sometimes do, begin to stir and flutter like motes of dust in a soft beam of light, that is perfectly all right, dear one. There is no need to push them away. Simply notice them, as you might notice a cloud passing overhead, and then, with all the kindness you possess, gently guide your attention back to the simple, steady rhythm of your own breathing. There is nothing more for you to do now, nothing to solve or hold. All that remains is to listen and to allow the story to carry you toward the deep and restorative rest that you so richly deserve. Feel the deep resonant hum of peace beginning to build, a gentle vibration that coaxes your body into a state of profound relaxation. Now, let us begin our journey into the heart of our tale, where the living catalogue of forgotten slumbers awaits to guide you into a truly serene and peaceful sleep. Chapter 1. The Threshold of Quiet. It is a curious truth that the quietest places are not merely empty of sound, but are instead full of a deep and ancient silence. And it was just such a place that Ronan had finally found. For days he had walked a path that seemed to be woven from little more than stillness and the soft crunch of his boots on dry earth. A journey that had gradually washed the noise of the world from his mind. Now before him stood the entrance to what the old gently worn map had called the Athenaeum of Repose. It was not a grand doorway with pillars and arches, but a simple dark opening in the side of a low moss-covered hill, looking for all the world like the contented side of the earth itself. The air that breathed out from it was cool and carried a scent he could not quite name, something like ancient damp stone and the dry, sweet perfume of long-forgotten hay, a fragrance that seemed to promise a deep and profound rest. He paused for a moment on the threshold, a place that felt like the border between two very different worlds. Behind him lay the familiar sensations of the open air, the gentle rustle of a distant breeze through tough grasses, and the faint, high whistle of the wind. Before him lay a quiet so profound it seemed to have a presence all its own, a weight that was not heavy but grounding. He took a single step forward, and as he crossed from the pale gray light of the overcast sky into the soft, welcoming dark of the entrance, the sounds of the outer world did not just fade. They were absorbed, disappearing completely into the deep and welcoming silence as if they had never been. It was like stepping into a pool of still, cool water, a sudden and complete immersion into tranquility that made the muscles in his shoulders release a tension he hadn't known he was carrying. Ronan's eyes, accustomed to the wide open sky, took a moment to adjust. There were no torches here, no braziers, yet the vast, cavernous space before him was not dark. It was filled with a soft, internal luminescence, a gentle light that seemed to emanate from the very air and the walls themselves. The walls were not bare stone, but shimmered with a pearlescent quality, their swirling milky patterns catching and diffusing the light into a soft, even glow. And dotted throughout the immense chamber, like silent, sleeping sentinels, were groves of enormous bell-shaped fungi, their pale caps pulsing with a slow, rhythmic, and gentle golden light. This light cast no harsh shadows, but instead pooled on the floor of soft, dark earth and illuminated the drifting motes of dust in the still air, making them appear like a slow, silent constellation of tiny stars. The floor beneath his feet was not stone, but a springy dark soil, compacted by ages of silence that softened the sound of his footsteps until they were little more than gentle whispers against the quiet. He took a few more steps inward, his whole being focused on the sensory tapestry of this incredible place. The air was cool against his cheeks, yet it held a strange, comforting quality, a stillness that felt protective, as if the Athenaeum itself were a vast and gentle creature holding its breath so as not to disturb him. The scent he had noticed at the entrance was stronger here, a complex and deeply soothing blend of cool, damp earth, the mineral tang of ancient stone, and a pervasive sweet aroma like dried chamomile flowers and warm liquid honey. He ran a hand along the nearest wall, its surface surprisingly smooth and cool to the touch, like polished river stone. The pearlescent sheen seemed to warm slightly under his palm, a faint, almost imperceptible response to his presence. He looked up, his gaze drawn to the impossibly high ceiling, which was lost in a soft, glowing mist, giving the impression that the cavern had no true roof, but simply opened up into a quiet eternity. All around him, the great glowing fungi continued their slow, silent pulse of light, a rhythm as steady and reassuring as a sleeping heart. It was a soft, gentle beat. It seemed to invite his own heart to slow, to match its languid, peaceful tempo. Ronan walked deeper into the silent hall, his movements slow and deliberate, as if he were a guest in a sacred library. He passed between two of the giant fungal groves, the golden light washing over him, feeling warm and gentle on his skin. He noticed that the quiet here was layered. Beneath the profound silence was a sound so low and pervasive it was felt more than heard. It was a deep, resonant hum, a vibration that seemed to emanate from the very foundations of the place, a sound like the deep, contented purr of the world itself. It was the sound of utter, unshakable peace, and it resonated within his chest, a gentle, calming frequency that seemed to soothe him from the inside out. He found a smooth, low stone near one of the fungal groves and sat down, the stone cool and solid beneath him. He was not tired in a physical sense, yet a great weariness he had carried in his spirit for a very long time seemed to be lifting, dissolving into the serene atmosphere of this place. He gently unslung the small, simple pack from his shoulders, placing it on the soft earth beside him. He did not need anything from it now. The journey, he felt with a quiet certainty, was over. He had arrived not just at a location on a map, but at a destination for his soul. Here, in the heart of the great quiet Athenaeum, surrounded by the soft, pulsing light and the sweet, dry scent of repose, Ronan simply sat. He did not think of the path behind him, nor of what lay ahead. His mind, for the first time in as long as he could remember, was as still and quiet as the air around him. He watched the tiny glowing motes drift in the golden light, each one a silent traveler on its own slow, meandering journey through the peace. He closed his eyes, and with a long, slow exhalation that seemed to carry the last of his worldly cares with it, he simply allowed himself to be. Chapter 2. The Drifting Spores of Somnus. After some time spent in quiet contemplation, Ronan felt a gentle stirring of curiosity, a soft impulse to explore this tranquil world more deeply. He rose from his stone seat, his movements feeling slow and fluid in the heavy, peaceful air. He began to walk again, his path taking him further into the heart of the Athenaeum, toward a grove of the bell-shaped fungi that seemed to glow with a particularly soft and inviting warmth. As he drew closer, he noticed that the glittering motes he had seen from afar were not dust, but tiny individual particles of light, each one drifting with a slow, deliberate grace, like the seeds of a dandelion caught in a place where no wind could ever blow. They emanated from the wide, gentle lips of the fungal bells, released in a slow, continuous, and utterly silent stream. A figure emerged from the soft shadows between two of the largest fungi, moving with such a slow and natural grace that he seemed to be a part of the landscape itself. He was an old man, his face a lovely map of gentle creases, and his long white beard seemed to hold the same pearlescent light as the cavern walls. He wore simple robes of a deep, soft gray, and his smile was one of pure, uncomplicated welcome. He held a hand out, not in greeting, but with his palm open, catching some of the drifting motes. "They are the slumber spores," he said, his voice a soft, low murmur that blended perfectly with the deep hum of the Athenaeum, the very essence of forgotten rests. "They will do you no harm." The old man, who introduced himself as Cashel, the caretaker of this place, gestured for Ronan to do the same. Hesitantly at first, Ronan raised his own hand, palm upward, into the slow, gentle cascade of light. The spores were weightless, their touch as imperceptible as a thought, yet as they settled on his skin, they dissolved into a pleasant, spreading warmth, like the feeling of stepping into a pool of perfectly heated water. It was a deeply comforting sensation, a warmth that seemed to seep through his skin and into his very bones, soothing away the deep, settled chill of his long journey. Cashel watched him with kind, knowing eyes. "Each one," he explained softly, "carries a fragment of a peaceful sleep. A cat's nap in a patch of sun, the first deep slumber of a newborn babe, the long, untroubled rest of a tree in winter." As the old man spoke, Ronan became aware of a new sensation. With the warmth came a faint, ghostly memory of comfort, not a specific image, but a pure feeling. He felt a fleeting sense of being swaddled in soft, sun-warmed linen, then the gentle rocking motion of a cradle, each sensation as delicate and brief as the scent of a flower on the breeze, yet deeply and profoundly reassuring. Ronan lowered his hand, marveling at the feeling of deep contentment that was settling over him. It was not a feeling of drowsiness or fatigue, but rather one of complete and utter ease, a sense of being perfectly at peace with himself and his surroundings. He found his breath had slowed, his inhalations and exhalations becoming long, deep, and even without any conscious effort. The spores continued to drift around him, their light catching in Cashel's white beard and hair, making him seem like an ancient, gentle spirit of the place, woven from light and peace. Cashel beckoned Ronan to follow him, leading him on a slow, meandering path through the silent, glowing groves. The floor remained soft and yielding underfoot, and the air was thick with the sweet, soporific scent of the spores, a fragrance of warm milk and honey, and something ancient, like dried herbs. The caretaker pointed to the different fungi as they passed, his voice a continuous, soothing murmur. This grove holds the naps of tired gardeners, heavy with the scent of sun-warmed earth, he whispered, gesturing to a cluster of fungi that glowed a soft, earthy gold. And these, the dreams of sailors becalmed on a gentle sea, he added, indicating a group whose light was a pale silvery blue. Ronan listened, not so much to the words, but to the gentle, calming tone of Cashel's voice. The old man's presence was as soothing as the Athenaeum itself. He moved without hurry, his focus entirely on the quiet wonders around them. He stopped and offered Ronan a small earthenware cup filled with a warm, fragrant liquid. A tea, Cashel said simply, brewed from the moss that grows by the quiet pools. It helps one to listen. The tea was warm and had a faintly sweet, earthy taste that coated Ronan's tongue and spread a gentle heat through his chest. It felt like drinking pure comfort. As they walked, more spores settled on Ronan's clothes and hair, and with each touch, he felt another layer of his worldly concerns simply fall away. The constant, low-level hum of anxiety that had been his companion for so long had vanished completely, replaced by a vast and quiet stillness within his own mind. He felt his shoulders, which he had thought were relaxed, drop even further, and the small, tight muscles around his eyes softened. He was simply present, a quiet observer in a world made of peace, his senses filled with the gentle light, the warm, sweet air, and the deep, resonant hum that held it all together. Chapter 3. The Resonant Stones. Cashel led Ronan away from the glowing fungal groves, his soft-soled slippers making no sound on the dark, springy earth. Their path sloped gently downward, and the deep, resonant hum of the Athenaeum seemed to grow a little stronger, its vibration of comforting presence in the soles of Ronan's feet. The air grew cooler and carried a new scent, the clean, mineral fragrance of moving water. Soon, the gentle, melodic sound of a flowing stream reached them, a sound as soft and soothing as a whispered lullaby. They arrived at a wide, shallow basin where a crystalline stream flowed with an almost imperceptible slowness over a bed of smooth, dark pebbles. Submerged in the clear, slow-moving water were hundreds of stones. They were all different shapes and sizes, but each was perfectly smooth, worn down by eons of gentle currents. They were not ordinary stones. They seemed to absorb the soft, ambient light of the cavern, glowing with deep internal warmth, their colors ranging from the dark gray of a stormy sky to the deep, soft black of a moonless night. These, Cashel said, his voice a low murmur that was nearly swallowed by the gentle burble of the water, are the resonant stones. They are the heart of the Catalogue. Each one holds the pure, undiluted feeling of a single perfect slumber. He knelt by the water's edge, his movements slow and full of a quiet reverence. He dipped his hand into the stream, the water parting around his weathered fingers without a splash. He gestured for Ronan to join him. Ronan knelt beside the old caretaker, the cool, damp air feeling pleasant on his face. The water was surprisingly warm, like a comforting bath, and as he dipped his own hands in, he felt the gentle, steady current pull softly at his fingers, a feeling like a gentle massage that seemed to draw the last traces of weariness from his very bones. The slumber spores carry the fragments, the memories, Cashel explained, his gaze fixed on the stones beneath the water. But the stones hold the stillness itself, the profound peace at the center of the sleep. He carefully selected a small, dark, palm-sized stone, its surface as smooth and flawless as polished jet. He lifted it from the water, its surface gleaming in the soft light, and offered it to Ronan. This one holds the deep hibernation of a bear, the long, slow sleep of an entire winter, untroubled by dreams or worries. Ronan took the stone. It was unexpectedly heavy, its weight a solid, reassuring presence in his palm. And it was warm, not just from the water, but with a deep, penetrating heat that seemed to emanate from its very core. As his finger closed around its smooth, perfect surface, a profound and overwhelming sensation washed through him. It was not a vision, nor a sound, but a pure, unadulterated feeling of absolute safety and peace. It was the feeling of being curled in the deepest, safest part of the earth, insulated from all the world by a thick, warm blanket of silence and stillness. His breathing deepened into a slow, primal rhythm, and his mind, already quiet, became utterly still, a placid, bottomless pool. He held the stone for a long time, his eyes closed, simply absorbing the profound tranquility it offered. It was a peace so deep and unconditional it felt ancient, a state of being that predated thought and worry. When he finally opened his eyes, he saw Cashel smiling gently, a look of shared understanding on his peaceful face. Ronan placed the stone carefully back into the stream, watching it settle amongst its silent companions, the water flowing over it once more. He felt as though he had just woken from the most restful sleep of his life. Yet he was fully awake, his senses sharper and clearer than ever before. Cashel then gestured to a larger, flatter stone of a pale gray color, half submerged near the edge of the basin. "And that one," he whispered, "holds the light, easy rest of a cloud drifting on a summer breeze, all buoyancy and weightlessness." Ronan reached out and laid his palm flat against its surface. The warmth was different here, lighter, and the sensation that flowed into him was one of effortless release. He felt a phantom feeling of floating, of being utterly unburdened, his body seeming to lose its weight and solidity, becoming as light and untroubled as the air itself. He spent what felt like a lifetime by the stream, gently touching one stone after another, each one imparting a unique and deeply soothing texture of rest. There was a small speckled stone that held the quick, refreshing nap of a hummingbird, a brief, sweet stillness between heartbeats. There was another, long and thin, that held the patient, dormant sleep of a seed through a long drought, full of a quiet and certain hope. It was a library of tranquility, its volumes not made of paper and ink, but of warm stone and the very essence of peace itself. As Ronan finally drew his hands from the warm water, he felt transformed. The resonant stones had not just calmed him, they had recalibrated his entire being to a slower, gentler frequency. He felt a deep inner stillness that was as solid and real as the stone he had first held, a peace that he knew with a quiet certainty he would carry with him long after he left this place. He gave Cashel a look of profound, unspoken gratitude, a look the old man returned with a slow, gentle nod of his own. Chapter 4. The Alcove of Stillness. Leaving the gentle, melodic sounds of the stream behind, Ronan followed Cashel along a winding path that led into a quieter, more secluded part of the Athenaeum. The light here seemed softer, the pulsing of the distant fungi more subdued, and the ever-present hum of the sanctuary felt deeper, more resonant. The path ended at a small circular alcove, a natural indentation in the pearlescent wall, like a cozy nook carved out by a gentle ancient hand. The floor of this alcove was not bare earth, but was carpeted in a thick, velvety moss of the deepest, most restful green. It looked impossibly soft, its surface unbroken and perfect. Cashel gestured toward the alcove with a gentle sweep of his hand. "A place to simply be," he whispered, his voice barely disturbing the profound silence. "The moss is old, very old. It has absorbed the quiet of this place for longer than men have counted years." With a soft, knowing smile, the old caretaker gave a slight bow of his head and retreated back down the path, his gray robes melting into the soft shadows, leaving Ronan alone in the deep and comforting solitude. Ronan stood for a moment, simply gazing at the inviting space, the very sight of which seemed to promise a deep and nurturing rest. He slowly approached the alcove and knelt, reaching out to touch the surface of the moss. It was every bit as soft as it looked, a texture unlike anything he had ever felt before. It was cool to the touch, with the refreshing chill of a deep forest floor, yet beneath that initial coolness lay a surprising and pleasant warmth, as if the moss were alive and breathing out a gentle heat. He pressed his palm into it, and the moss yielded like the finest down, springing back into its perfect shape the moment he lifted his gloved hand. It was an impossibly perfect bed, crafted by nature and time. With a long, contented sigh, Ronan removed his simple boots, placing them neatly beside the alcove. He then lay down upon the moss, turning onto his back and letting his limbs fall naturally into a comfortable position. The sensation was extraordinary. The moss contoured perfectly to the shape of his body, supporting every curve and hollow, cradling him with a softness that felt both gentle and completely secure. It was like lying on a cloud that was also anchored to the deep, steady earth. A faint, clean, earthy scent rose from the moss, a fragrance of damp soil, rain-washed leaves, and ancient peace. Lying there, Ronan gazed up into the soft, glowing mist of the cavern's high ceiling. From this vantage point, the ceaseless, gentle drift of the slumber spores was the only movement in his field of vision. They floated down like a slow, silent snowfall of tiny golden stars, their descent unhurried and unending. He watched them without thought, his mind content to simply observe their gentle, mesmerizing dance. There were no problems to solve, no destinations to reach, no tasks to complete. There was only the softness of the moss beneath him, the gentle light above him, and the deep, profound peace that filled the air. It was in this perfect stillness that the hum of the Athenaeum became more apparent than ever before. It was no longer a background sound, but a living presence. The deep, resonant frequency seemed to travel up from the earth, through the thick carpet of moss, and into his body. He could feel the gentle, soothing vibration in his bones, a low, steady thrum that resonated in his chest cavity and seemed to align with the slow, steady beat of his own heart. It was a profoundly calming sensation, a sonic blanket that enveloped him completely, gently shaking loose the last, most stubborn knots of tension in his body. His thoughts, which had already been as quiet as a slow-moving river, now seemed to slow even further, becoming as still and clear as the water in the basin of resonant stones. Fleeting images and gentle feelings drifted through his mind, not as worries or memories, but as simple, detached observations. The feeling of the cool air on his face, the beautiful, shifting patterns of the pearlescent wall, the deep comfort of his own slow breathing. He was not asleep, but in a state of deep, wakeful rest, a place of pure being that was more restorative than any slumber he had ever known. He placed a hand on his own chest, feeling the slow, steady rise and fall, a simple, primal rhythm of life. The air he drew in felt clean and sweet, filled with the scent of moss and honeyed spores, and the air he breathed out was warm and heavy with release. He felt his body growing heavier, not with exhaustion, but with a deep, pleasant relaxation. His limbs felt weighted and boneless, anchored to the soft earth, and a feeling of profound security like that he had felt from the bear's resonant stone settled over him once more. Here, in this quiet alcove, he was utterly safe, utterly at peace, and utterly present. Chapter 5. The Gift of Repose. The soft golden light of the fungal groves never waxed or waned, holding the Athenaeum in a state of perpetual gentle twilight. How much time had passed as Ronan lay in the mossy alcove, he did not know, nor did he feel any need to. Time here was not a river rushing to the sea, but a deep, still pool, and he was floating peacefully upon its surface. He had drifted in and out of a state that was neither true sleep nor full wakefulness, a serene in-between place where his mind was quiet and his body was steeped in the most profound rest it had ever known. The world outside, with its cycles of day and night, its demands and its noises, felt like a story he had read in a book long ago. He slowly opened his eyes, though it felt as if they had never truly been closed. The slumber spores still drifted down in their slow, silent, endless ballet, each one a tiny spark of tranquility. The deep, resonant hum of the sanctuary was still a constant, comforting presence, a vibration that felt as much a part of him now as his own heartbeat. He felt a change within himself, a shift so deep and fundamental it was hard to put into words. The weariness he had carried for so long, a weight on his spirit more than his body, had not just been lifted, it had dissolved completely, as if it had never existed at all. It was replaced by a sense of wholeness, a quiet, solid core of peace that felt both unshakable and wonderfully light. With a slow, deliberate movement that was born not of stiffness, but of a new and profound mindfulness, Ronan sat up. The moss yielded to his movement and then sprang back, leaving no impression of where he had lain. He felt as if he were waking from the slumber of a lifetime, yet his mind was clear and his body felt light and energized, imbued with a calm vitality. He looked at his own hands, turning them over in the soft golden light. They seemed new to him, the hands of someone who was no longer burdened, no longer searching, but had simply arrived. He understood then that the Athenaeum had given him a great gift. It had not been a magical cure or a grand revelation, but something far quieter and more precious. It had reminded him of the peace that was always available, the stillness that resided deep within him, buried under the noise and hurry of the world. He stood up, his bare feet sinking slightly into the cool, soft moss. He felt a deep and abiding gratitude for this place, for its silence, its gentle light, and its ancient caretaker. He retrieved his boots, but did not put them on yet, preferring to feel the soft, living earth beneath his feet. As he walked, he made his way back along the winding path, his steps slow and measured, his senses taking in the serene beauty of the Athenaeum with a fresh, quiet wonder. The glowing fungi, the pearlescent walls, the sweet, soporific air, it all felt like home. He found Cashel by the basin of resonant stones, tending to them with a soft claw, polishing their already perfect surfaces with a loving, practiced hand. The old man looked up as Ronan approached, and his gentle smile was all of the greeting that was needed. There was no need for thanks, no need for farewells. A shared, silent understanding passed between them, a recognition of the peace that now resided so deeply in Ronan. Cashel simply nodded, a slow, deep gesture of acknowledgement and blessing, before turning his attention back to his quiet, contented work. Ronan knew it was time to leave, not with a sense of reluctance or sadness, but with a quiet acceptance. He had received what he had come for, and more. He walked back toward the entrance, the path that had seemed so vast and mysterious upon his arrival, now feeling familiar and comforting. The deep hum of the Athenaeum seemed to follow him, a gentle, resonant farewell. As he reached the threshold, he paused one last time, turning to look back into the soft, golden twilight of the great cavern. He took one last, deep breath of the sweet, spore-filled air, a final taste of this profound tranquility to carry with him. Then he stepped out of the Athenaeum of Repose and back into the pale gray light of the outer world. The gentle rustle of the wind and the soft crunch of earth under his boots sounded different now, not as an intrusion, but as a gentle counterpoint to the deep silence he now carried within him. He sat on a nearby rock to put on his boots, his movements unhurried and graceful. He felt the weight of his small pack on his shoulders, but it no longer felt like a burden. The journey ahead was unknown, but for the first time in a very long time, he felt no anxiety, only a quiet, open curiosity. He had found the ultimate stillness, and now he carried it with him. He knew that wherever he went, a part of the Athenaeum, its peace, its hum, its gentle restorative quiet, would remain with him, a silent inner sanctuary he could return to whenever he wished.